Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I look at the Team USA basketball cards for the year 2000. One of the really fun things about basketball cards in the 90s was the fact that every 4 years, and at one point every 2 years, we got a card set of the USA Olympic team, the basketball team for either the Olympics proper or for the World Championship. And really, I should say that was every 2 years from 1992 through 1996. And then in 1998, they just kind of skipped over it. The World's game just wasn't quite as important as the Olympics, and they just didn't bother with that in terms of basketball cards. But when 2000 came around, we had another Olympics, and so of course we were going to do this. And part of why it was so much fun with all of these cards was the fact that we had not one or even two, but three different brands making cards. In the first year, other than the Impel set, we only had Hoops and Skybox. That was Dream Team. But for the next 2 years, we had both the Hoops Skybox set as well as Fleer, but we also had Upper Deck. So that means that we had three different avenues for cards to collect year after year. And it gave us a lot of variety, but it also gave us a lot of different cards. The one card company that was not involved with that was Topps. Now, that was not the case with the women's team because the women's team had no card sets except in 1996, where Topps specifically made a small card set for the women's team. That was Topps' only involvement, and at the time, that was the only involvement for the women's team proper. So when 2000 came around, Topps decided, forget this, we're going to be the only company to do it. And so they did set up a deal so that they had exclusivity for the USA Olympic team, specifically both teams. So this was a merger of two teams that really were one team for all intents and purposes. So it was great. The men's team and the women's team were both going to be handled with essentially with equal respect, not necessarily with the same amount of coverage, but there was kind of a synonymous quality, which made a lot of sense because we already had the WNBA. It had been around for a while, and it had really earned, women's basketball had really earned its right in the world of viewership and in collecting. Now, how excited were we about collecting them? Some of us, myself included, were pretty excited about it, but it still had a ways to go. So that means that for the Team USA cards, there weren't as many women's team cards, but at least now they were lined up pretty much right alongside the men's team. So, excellent. So, Topps wanted to take advantage of this, as you would imagine, and they had a lot of different releases of cards, and they took advantage of almost every single release. Starting off, very shockingly, with, Topps. Now, the Topps cards for their main release of cards, these cards came with an orange border. Very bold cards. They did have a team color where the gold foil for the team, for the player name was at, but other than that, it was their very, very orange border. Well, in Series 2, they did a subset of Team USA cards, and thankfully, they had a white border on these cards. Oh, it was such a big help. Plus, instead of a team color, they actually have a flag behind the player name, which makes the player name very difficult to read, but it makes this card a very, very nice looking card. The best Team USA card? No. But still, quite a ways up there. So this was when they got around to these cards, they did it right. And one of the advantages of the white border is the fact that they also did these cards in chrome. Almost all the cards in the main set were done with a chrome parallel, and the chrome cards are really more themed on a white border. So these cards look correct. They look the same in the regular release as well as the chrome. And as you can imagine, the chrome also has the refractor version. So every one of these players had three versions of their card. But they didn't do any inserts. Now with Finest also did a subset, and these cards have, the background is replaced by a big flag. I'm not a big fan of it, but they imprinted a bunch of little cookie cutter spots of stars speckled all over, not related to the background image. So it has a texture from that, which is kind of a neat effect. It's not a great effect, but it's a neat effect. So, for what it is. And these cards all do have the protector over the front. These cards did come with the refractor version, as you would expect. They also come with the gold parallel. So this year, the way the gold parallel worked was they had a die cutting around the outside, just a little sawtooth around all four sides. And the cards are all individually numbered out of 100 in this subset. So yeah, that was the Finest release. They didn't do any inserts. Well, not in 99 2000, because that's the thing. All of these main release cards were released in the 1999 2000 card year, with the exception of the two inserts for Finest, which were actually released in 2000 2001. It's the only cards that came out after the Olympics in a main release set. And so for 2001, the Finest cards, they have two inserts, one of which is a jersey swatch, which is Moment's Relic. And this is one of the rare cards of Antonio McDyess. McDyess was not a part of the main team as we really knew the team. So he had just a couple of cards that popped up, but one of them came with the jersey swatch. The other set is only kind of a Team USA card. It is NBA players who had played in the Olympics. These cards are gorgeous cards. They have brushed metal effect over the whole card surface. Really beautiful. All the players are in their NBA jerseys. So that was the other thing that they did for Finest, and the other thing that they did for the second year of release. But back in 99 2000, for Stadium Club, here they did something very distinctive. Instead of showing any of the men's team, they only included cards of the women's team in the subset. And the subset is, for this year, the subset was done a little bit different from the rest of the cards. So they have a chromed surface on the front, and the card is very flat. Here there you have a better flag behind the player, but still it's not the best design, I think. But regardless, all of the women's team players have cards here in this set, and all these cards do come with the first day issue parallel. The first day issue cards are exactly the same as the main release cards. The only difference is they have a little gold foil emblem for first day issue. And on the card back, it has numbered out of 150. So otherwise, the cards are exactly the same. That's not the case with the one-of-a-kind parallel. Here you have more of a mirror finish on the card front. It's much better looking card. And these cards also have the numbered of 150 on the back. Now it's very clear the difference between the two cards because the surface of the card is very different. You also have different logos. The gold foil for first day is very easy to find. If you don't know where the one-of-a-kind is at, it's actually at the Stadium Club logo. It's right at the bottom of that, so it's an extension. But that was the way that the women's cards came in this set. But they didn't leave the men's team out entirely with Stadium Club. They did do an insert set with jersey swatches. This is their Piece of Patriotism card set, and they had a lot of fun playing around with the flag on this card. It's pretty bold. It's a pretty fun insert set. Now, for Bowman's Best, this is quite a bit of a letdown because they didn't do anything in the main set. They only did one insert set, and that was their World's Best cards. Now, these cards all have a refractor finish on it. They also have another effect that's kind of almost like ridges on it, which makes a really cool effect, the way that the whole surface works. But that's the way the cards came, and there was no parallel, so it was just those cards. They didn't do anything else. Now, I will say that that's better than Topps Gallery, where they didn't do anything at all. But at least with Topps Gold Label, with their insert set, they do have the parallels. So for Topps Gold Label, the insert set is Quest for Gold. And the Quest for the Gold cards they're done the same way as the main cards in the set. They have all the cards are refractor surface. There's an iridescent quality, quite a thickness to the cards. They're really, really neat cards. The big difference for these cards is they have the gold label, they have their black label, and their red label. The gold label cards, the difference is the logo up on the corner. For the gold label cards, the gold label logo is a gold foil. For the black label cards, it is replaced with almost a hollow onyx effect. Really, really cool quality. And then for the red label cards, it is a ruby foil. And the red label cards are all serial numbered out of 25. So at least here it has the collectability. It also has a very difficult to get parallel, but it had some dexterity, so it's a much more fun set to collect. But that's what they did for the main set. They didn't do any other cards in the main sets, but for every single year there was at least one card set that was created specifically for the USA team. And in the year 2000, Topps made a card set called Team USA. And this card set it's all dedicated to the team. And it includes both the men's team and the women's team throughout the whole thing. So for every men's card in the card set, there's a women's card as well. The two teams have different numbers of players. So the men's team had 12 players, the women's team had 11. That means that every 23 cards it swaps, because they have 4 different themes, and every theme goes all the men, and then it goes through all the women's team players, and then for 24, you start with the men's team, and then the women's team, and the men's team, women's team. Interestingly, they do not have the same numbers. So the order of the men's players changes from group to group to group, theme to theme. Women's team as well. So none of the players show up in the same order as you go from group to group. But it always starts with the men's team and then the women's team in each group. Each one of the 4 card designs is based upon a different theme in the story about the player. This is basically the way that all of these card sets have been done, whether Skybox was doing it, Upper Deck was, it doesn't matter who was doing it. These cards have all worked this way. Topps did it the same way, except the way that they broke it up is different from the other sets. And every single one of these cards comes with a gold parallel. Now, I have to note something here. These cards are plastic, and I mean, they are very, very much plastic. It has a very interesting feel to it, but it also has a very interesting look to it. With the gold version, these really look more like bronzed cards. I mean, they really do look like a bronzed finish. Gold is the theme they're going for, but the entire set is done this way. So every single one of the main cards has the regular card, and then it also has the gold parallel. And the way that the card set ends is with a men's team card, a women's team card, both of these with floating heads of all of the players. And then there's a combined for both teams, again with floating heads, but for both teams, and then a checklist at the end. And all of these do come with the gold or the bronzed finish version. So the whole card set comes in regular, and it comes with the gold parallel. For inserts, they had a fair number of inserts, and it starts off with side by side. Now, side by side, this is something they were doing in Stadium Club, and with Stadium Club, the effect, they didn't bother to do a main set release for the USA team. So if you were collecting the regular Stadium Club sets, these sets would come up, and they're done the same way. It's like a Topps Chrome finish on this card with a player on one side, player on the other. In this case, they have a men's team player and they have a women's team player on every card, and it is split in 2. So every single card has a refractor on it. And I specify a refractor because they do, for most of the cards, they do a refractor on one side, but the other side does not have a refractor. And on the card back, they actually specify refractor on the particular side. But they also swap them. So every single card has a refractor on the left. It also comes with a refractor on the right. It also comes with a refractor on both sides, a dual refractor. So every single card is released with 3 versions. Now, the refractor on the left and the refractor on the right are a lot easier to get than the dual, but they do come with all 3. And because there are 12 men's team players and only 11 members of the women's team, there's one women's player that shows up twice, which is Dawn Staley. So she actually has 6 cards, not just 3, but everybody else just has the 3, the 1, 2, and the 3. So that's a fun set. It's a bit of a tricky set to put together just because you got to get all the parts. 12 cards, but it's really a 36 card set. But it is a lot of fun. They also had a card set called National Spirit, and this is a chromed surface on the card with a big medallion behind the player. Now this is interesting because, again, all the men and all the women show up in this card set. And that's significant because if you, like myself, I collect with binders. There are actually 9 cards for every single player. There are 4 cards in the main set, but there are additional 4 for the gold version. That means that in the main set with the regular and the gold parallel, there are 8 cards per player, and then every player also has a 9th, which is this National Spirit card. So that means that if you collect in binders, you can have an entire page dedicated to each player. So really kind of cool. Now they did do jersey swatches, and the jersey swatches were only for the men's team players. So the men all have jersey swatches, which is, they're pretty good designs. Not the most energetic, but very nice designed cards. But the women's team was not featured with jersey swatches. What about autographs? Well, guess what? All of the women signed autograph cards. not the men. There are no autographs for the men. So the men only show up with the jersey swatches, the women only show up with the autographs. And you can run into redemption cards for the women's autographs that probably aren't going to be redeemed at this point. But that was it. That's what Topps did for all of their releases, and it was a lot. What's really interesting about this is the little things you got to find all over the place. Topps Gallery, I believe, is the only card set. I mean, there's also the season opener or tip off or whatever they did for that year. I should have figured that out beforehand. But setting that aside, I think Topps Gallery was the only place where they didn't do anything this year. Other than that, they've got a whole bunch of stuff that's all over the place, and it's really fun to work on trying to put these different card sets together, except for the red label cards, which are just not even worth trying. So, but that was basically the end of these, I want to say it's quadriennial. Again, I should have looked that up. The every 4-year setup of doing a whole bunch of cards of the Team USA. It just wouldn't have the same panache. It wouldn't have the same strength in future releases, the future Olympics that would come down the road. So this is the last time that it was just a big party, and Topps really did have a big party. So it was really cool. I think that's about all there is to say about this. So if you've got any questions about this, definitely let me know. That's what the comment section is there for. And definitely subscribe if you haven't done so already. Check out my other videos. I've already done all the other Team USA sets, including the women's teams over all of the different sets. So check those out if you haven't had a chance. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.